Happy Boba Fett Day to every single one of you guys. This is the way. Chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett is officially here, and my name is Zach, and I'm so excited to be diving into this brand new episode of Boba Fett in full spoilers. So if you guys are new here and you don't know how this goes, I just like talking about the episode. My thoughts bounce around a crazy amount, but I love hearing your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, so make sure to leave a comment on what your guys' thoughts were on the episode, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're just as crazy as me and you need a place to come talk Boba Fett right after the episode airs, because hell, I'll stay up as late as possible to watch these things. I don't want to be spoiled, and I'm sure many of you guys also don't want to be if you're up this late with me or if you're watching it later and you stayed off the internet. So the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 2 kicks off, and last week's episode, I dug the first pilot episode. Thought it was a little bit slow, and a little bit of a curiosity choice to start with some flashbacks and jump in and out. And I was thinking, okay, let's see where this episode goes. I assumed there was going to be flashbacks in here. Didn't expect this many. And we'll talk about some of my cons that I feel that, but this is definitely heading in more of a direction that I want it to, but sometimes a more surprising and subtle manner than I expected, because what this show is actually doing, more than what I'm actually surprised that The Mandalorian didn't tell, is while yes, they are both about two different bounty hunters, two different Mandalorians, in a sense, but with The Mandalorian is more of like a serialized Western. This one is definitely more of a subtle Western that is telling a story about a broken man who has had a terrible childhood, past, and how his upbringing has brought him to the point of where he wants to take over the Hutt. He wants to be the new daimyo of this entire area, and how his reign gets there. There's elements of this with Godfather 1 and Godfather Part 2, which I actually think is really interesting to see how they're able to intersect that in here. And in a sense, it's diving into one part of the Star Wars universe that I don't think we've ever really dived into enough, which is the underworld area. It's really much been rumored that Lucasfilms has wanted to dive into this area before, and they're diving into this while also diving into cultures of, say, the Tusken Raiders, characters that have prolifically been a part of Star Wars for years. We are finally getting more of them and actually seeing a part of their culture, which is something that, again, if you've read the novels or comics, you may have experienced some of that, but in live action storytelling, this is the most that we've had yet, and I think it's actually quite beautiful to see how they're doing that. And you know, let's start off with the episode with the beginning of this, because there were no flashbacks. When this episode started, I saw 51 minutes with credits. I said, okay, what's going to happen in this one? Because I've heard there's big cameos and big things that are going to be happening in here, and nothing huge yet. There's a couple huge things in this episode, definitely, but nothing huge like a Han Solo showing up or a Cad Bane, which I'm still predicting Cad Bane's going to show up in this. I mean, if he doesn't, then sure. I'm not trying to get my expectations up that high, but I do think it's also pretty interesting if a Han Solo shows up. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on that. But of course, this episode shows up. He's trying to figure out Fennec, which is just awesome. Like, I love Fennec when she brings the guy who she kept alive last time, and they're having this conversation. Who are you working for? Who are you working for? And it's really cool because he won't talk. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the damn ninja clan or whatever they are called. They definitely are pussies. They give up with the second she goes, okay, how about you go down here, and pulls it, and of course the thing is dead down there, but he goes down there and starts spewing everything, and then when the gate opens, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, is it gonna be a new one? Is it gonna be a new one? But you know, they never replaced it. It's dead. And the Rancor I miss. I hope we actually get to see one in this show. That would be pretty cool in my opinion. But I really liked Fennec's personality, her charm, her nature, and her protection towards Boba Fett. And I'm really interested to learn more about Fennec as we go on in here. And I'm happy that we got, again, of course, her in The Mandalorian, and of course in Bad Batch. I just think she's such an interesting character, and I love the swagger that is portrayed in this performance. Adding in here, though, they're trying to figure out what is going on. This guy says the mayor hired them. They go to the mayor. The mayor's an interesting character, saying maybe you gives him some advice, pays him for this, and in a sense tells him, I didn't send this guy. Which, I don't know if I fully believe that, but I also don't think the mayor truly did. I think this guy was still lying. But of course, then he gets sent back to the same place he went to last episode. They're like, how can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. He wants to know what is going on. You guys are sweating. Then you hear the boom, boom, boom. The drums and the twins. And they say the twins. And I'm like, is this a part of Jabba's family? Who are we about to see? And Coming around the corner right as Boba Fett walks out all badass like Tamora Morrison. God, he's so good in this role. Walks around the corner. It's the twins. Jabba the Hutt's family is here. And it was really cool to see some Hutts in here because I love the design of the Hutts and how they look. And I thought the CGI mixed with practical effects here were fantastic. And there was a lot of nostalgic vibes in there in their conversations with Boba Fett. And, you know, Boba Fett is right. The thing that I actually squealed on, though, was when this Chewbacca Wookiee-looking man walks around the corner, gladiator armor and all, and totally reminds me of, like, a Wookiee from, like, Old Republic gaming days. And I just sat there going, that's awesome. And I wanted Boba Fett to get into action, start kicking ass, kill the Hutts, kill that guy. But what this is very much establishing is the other families that are going to partake in this, of course, Godfather-like story. Which, again, in per se of who Boba Fett is now, he's not the type... Sorry, guys, I have the hiccups. But he's not the type to sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to kill everyone. No. He's subtle. He's trying to make a deal. No bloodshed. We know they are going to come into play. And, I mean, Boba Fett's going to fight the Wookiee, right? He's going to fight the gladiator Wookiee. We all know he will, and it's going to be pretty badass. But, of course, after that scene, he gets in the back to Tub and his nightmares, per se. I'm thinking, okay, it's only going to go for a bit. No, the rest of the episode is this entire flashback. And this is where I do want to mention a con, because I do like the flashbacks. But it feels like this is two different stories trying to be told. And I actually feel that Book of Boba Fett, depending on how the rest of the season goes, this con might go completely out of the way. I need to see where these flashbacks end and how they very much develop this character. Because there are plenty of shows that have flashbacks while the present storyline is also going. And sometimes they really work. And sometimes it can be a detriment. I don't think it's a detriment yet. I think it depends on the payoff. It does hurt the pacing a bit because I do want to get back to what is going on with Boba Fett nowadays after The Mandalorian Season 2. How is he going to take this over? Who sent this person? What is still out there in this world? How is he going to handle this? But at the same time, these flashbacks are elevating his character to see how he is no longer this guns shooting first guy, and more of this subtle approach. And in general, when he looks at the Tusken Raiders, they are respecting him and giving him that. And it goes back to what he said in the first episode. I want to rule by respect, not fear. And in the beginning of last episode, where we see him trying to pretty much show fear into these Tusken Raiders, that is not the way of gaining their respect. Respecting them and actually helping them, that's the way of respect. And I like that. And again, it's interesting. And I like seeing how he's living along the Tusken Raiders. And of course, when that train comes by and screws a lot of them up, and then they come back around, he goes, let me go. We can stop the train. Gets the bikes, smart ideas. And we get this amazing action sequence in this bar, but also on the train heist, which was just total Western vibes. And I loved this, kind of giving me vibes of some of the old Clint Eastwood stuff that I loved. And again, mixing the best aspects of Godfather and Westerns that I just, again, this just fits perfectly in here. Great action scenes in here. But again, when they get everyone off the train, they start having these discussions about Spice, the Kessel, and where they're from, and pretty much making a deal and saying, you can cross free, but you must pay them in respect, and again, pay them a fine to use their road. And again, it just goes back to what he has been learning from the Tusken Raiders, and I think it's interesting, even if I do feel like the pacing can hurt a bit. It was cool to see how he got the full robe, and actually, I knew the second he brought that branch back, I knew that was going to be his little stick that he hits people with, which is just cool. So overall, I liked this episode more than the first. Thought it was way better in its execution of pacing and story-wise of developing everything. But at the same time, I wonder if it would have been smarter to just do one season of seeing how he survived, how he got to the point where we knew him at, and then come back for a season 2 of this. But at the same time of that, I'm also a hypocrite because I do like that they're showing both avenues right now. Because then my issue is after Mandalorian Season 2, I'd be like, okay, well, I want to see where he's going next with his story, not where we're at now. So, again, these are just minor cons that I'm giving you guys right now. This show might not be working for you. This show, you might be thinking this is the best show you've ever watched. But these are my minor cons right now. I think for me, I just need to see where the rest of the season goes. And that's why TV is so hard to grade. That's why I don't give ratings until the final episode, is because I don't know what to expect. I might see the final episode and be like, all of this was perfectly executed. And then I might also see the finale and be like, okay, yeah, you probably could have tightened this up and fixed that up. And that's definitely happened with WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki. All of my expectations have definitely much changed by the finale, for better or for the worse. And we'll see what happens with Boba Fett. But I'm really liking this show. In fact, I almost nearly loved this episode. Pretty badass. And I can't wait to read your guys' thoughts. So make sure to leave a comment, hit that like and subscribe button. This is the way, guys. May the force be with all of you guys. And I'll see you next Wednesday.